You're listening to the Therapy Hour with Rusty Lozano, brought to you by the Center for Biofeedback and Behavior Therapy in Addison, Texas.
Hello and welcome back to the show. If you're just joining us, we have Dr. Alfie Key. This is our fourth segment, and we are discussing sleep and sleep disorders. And Dr. Alfie Key is he's an adult neurologist and the director of the Sleep Disorder Center at Texas Neurology. Dr. Alfie Key, over the break, we were talking about sleep hygiene and you know, the routine of how the effects of maybe strobing lights have on the brain, and so then television, and I was bringing in some of this over the break. But what would you say about the concept of sleep restriction? And I'm going to go ahead and patch in Chris Jordan. He joins us from Austin. He's the host of the Dudes and Beer podcast in Austin. Chris, are you there with us?
Yes, I am. Hello?
While we're waiting for him, tell us a little bit about concept of maybe sleep restriction. Sure.
So there's multiple interventions that we do in patients with chronic insomnia. So we start with going over the sleep habits. So we ask patients to basically restrict their time in bed, only sleep.
Keep it sacred and only the sleep.
So and then to determine a sleep onset time and a wake up time. And we start with, I tell my patients, let's start with a modest goal of say 6-7 hours of sleep. So the time in bed should be 6 or 7 hours, and we try to fill this time with sleep. And then as the patient, of course, when you go into the bed, you shouldn't watch TV, you don't look at any light emitting source, you don't do anything distracting, except probably for maybe reading a book, preferably a boring book, nothing that would be very exciting. Right. And then just to get you into this monotony in reading, and you try to kind of decrease and distract you, and then try to get into sleep. And then once you fall asleep, so once you do that, once you turn that book away, turn the lights off, if you're in bed for 30 minutes or longer and you're not asleep yet, you should leave the bed. And you should actually go somewhere in your apartment, your house, sit on a comfortable chair, dim light, find that boring book and read in it again. Don't watch TV, don't eat, don't do anything stimulating. Don't clean the garage or fix the meal or look at your emails or house. And then if you feel sleepy, you go back. And then you have to really be strict with that waking, even if you didn't sleep for a single hour that night, because that will create what's called a sleep debt that will help you the following.
Like retraining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course during the daytime we ask our patients, caffeinated beverages, maybe one in the morning or so. Definitely no caffeinated beverages after 12 p.m. And remember things like Dr. Pepper has caffeine in it, and
hear that, Aaron,
and chocolate and things like that. Because iced tea, because sometimes you say, well, I just have iced tea with dinner, nothing, no caffeine. But all of these things are caffeinated. And then we ask also our patients not to have any heavy meals, no heavy exercise, and no alcohol within 2 hours or 3 hours before you go to sleep, because that will definitely interfere with it.
And that's something that's a recommendation to kind of help retrain. And in that time frame, you're collecting. Are they keeping a sleep log and letting you know how they're
Absolutely.
doing?
And then they keep a sleep log, and that will help us when we follow them to see their sleep log.
How long do you think it takes to train somebody to kind of retrain a sleep pattern, a healthy one? You're doing something like this.
I think it's my experience. It's months. I mean, and that's a very good point. I tell our patients to have a realistic expectations. So, these are patients with chronic insomnia that had it for 10 years or more, and I tell patients, if we're able to get back to your pre-insomnia sleep within 6 months to 1 year, I think that's going to be a good result. And the progress really is in small increments. So you'll find, over a week or so, you'll improve in your sleep by 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and then gradually you build on that. However, if the cognitive behavior therapy and working with sleep hygiene has been shown actually to be more sustainable than using hypnotics, than using a sleeping system. So I definitely encourage my patients to try to go through that, because the effects are going to be more sustainable, are going to last for.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Jordan,
Yeah,
from Austin. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. How are you, fellas?
Good. You want to weigh in on what the doctor said?
Well, and I've been listening in through the whole show, and as someone who worked swing shifts and late night shifts, you definitely are affected by that. It's one of those things of when the rest of the world is waking up, you're going to bed. I know a couple people that served in submarines, and they actively go on to, I think it's like a 28-hour schedule, something like that. Like, because they go without daylight for months at a time, they physically have to change the way that their body operates. And whenever they come back, like the doctor said, it takes months for them to retrain their body to adapt to normal daylight and to being around it and stuff like that. Even last night,
So hold on.
Go ahead.
So that's interesting. Like being on a submarine, you're in a consistent, like steady light source, 24 hours a day. I mean, how does?
So that's a very interesting point. This leads to this non-24-hour cycle, and when that happens, the patients will basically have progressive time of sleep and waking up. So, this morning you'll go to sleep at 9 in the morning, and then tomorrow you go to sleep at 10, and then in 12 days you'll be sleeping at midnight, and then in 24 hours, in 24 days you'll be back to sleeping at 9 a.m. So their sleep-wake cycle kind of goes around the clock.
Yeah.
You see this in like you said, in patients who anyone who's deprived from light. So being on a submarine, patients who are blind, can't see, will have that. And there's some professions actually that lead to that. When you're not exposed well to light. So, for example, we see that sometimes in computer programmers who kind of go into these, long 30-day or 40-day crash working on a project or something like that, and they stay in dark environments, and they have limited time to exposure to light, and they don't really follow a good sleep-wake cycle, and then after that, when they get out of it, they have this kind of non-24-hour sleep circadian rhythm disorder because of that lack of entrainment that we talked about.
Yeah.
You deprive that center in the brain, that biological clock that controls the biological clock, you deprive that from the stimulus, which is the light-dark stimulus, that synchrony has been lost, and therefore you get this kind of disorder.
And I'm sure that maybe a captain of a submarine may not kind of adjust people's, the crew's sleep schedule to the time zones. So if they're on like a conventional sleep schedule, and then they're in Guam or another part of the world that's in a different time zone, or even in some European area, that it's nighttime when it's their daytime. And I believe they have and remember also in a submarine or what have you, they have, in addition to that, they have shifts. I mean, there has to be somewhere there working 24 hours. So they will have several shifts, and they will have some sort of a strict wake sleep cycle related to that. So they
continue to
kind of
function.
offset, right? So that everybody's not just sleeping.
And one of the things that you can actively do to curtail that, especially like I'm an editor, so like even right now in my home studio where I'm coming to you from, it's very dimly lit. You know, it's a calm, cool environment for while I'm working, because I'm going to be working for long stretches, long periods of time. But whenever I do have lights on, I tend to use full spectrum daylight bulbs. Because I'm inside 90% of the time, you know, so it does make a difference, as far as the spectrum of light that you're getting.
Yeah. So the recommendations for people that do shift work, so people that are, you know, working at night, is absolutely what you just said. You know, exposure to light. You have to have good bright light. Work in. You shouldn't really avoid dim light. That's a problem. For example, in certain professions, like, you know, police officers or what have you, they have to be in cars that are not well lit. You know, probably in a dark place somewhere, and that definitely affects their shift work performance. So it has to be bright light. You have to try to use, you know, caffeinated beverages. Try to involve in activity and things like that would maintain your wakefulness through the night. And then the more important thing is that when you're done with your shift and you're going home in the morning, this is when you really need to stay away from light. So you need to, you know, use your sunglasses. As soon as you get home, the house has to be dark, and you really should not delay sleep. Go into sleep right away. And you shouldn't go on, you know, running errands and things like that, because if you do that, so again, you're helping that circadian rhythm into maintaining wakefulness, and you're combating that homeostatic drive, and therefore that sleep-wake cycle will get disturbed.
Excellent, Dr. Alfie Key, thank you very much for your time, and have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy the long weekend.
Great.
KFXR, Dallas, Fort Worth. Talk Radio 1190. An iHeart radio station.